All right. So we'll pause Led Zeppelin's Cashmere. It's a song that's like 8 minutes and 40 seconds. So I'm not going to let the whole thing play. But hello out there. Welcome to a rainy Friday here in Washington, D.C., Silver Spring. I'm so excited to have you here. My name is Teri Cross Davis. Actually, I'll give you all my names. It's Teri Ellen Cross Davis. And thank you for watching the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. For those of you who don't know, the Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University is the nation's oldest academic center dedicated to Black poetry. In the 25 years since the first Furious Flower Conference and the 15 years of the center's brick and mortar existence, Furious Flower programs have reached thousands of poets, educators, students, and poetry lovers around the world. From groundbreaking media and anthologies to summer seminars for educators and decade defining conferences, Furious Flower has impacted literary communities on local, regional, national, and international levels by creating platforms for Black poets to encounter their readers and for readers to experience and engage with Black literary culture in new and exciting ways. This Facebook Live reading series is made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you to the NEA. So, let me give you a little bit about myself. My name's Teri Ellen Cross Davis. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, a proud Clevelander, and I now live in Silver Spring, right outside of DC. Yay, DMV. I've published two books of poetry and one anthology with my collective, the Black Ladies Brunch Collective. The anthology that I published was Not Without Our Laughter, Poems of Humor, Joy, and Sexuality. And the two books that I've published as a solo poet are Haint and A More Perfect Union. You see all those tabs? Those tabs are just for you guys today. So, there are things you should know about me. What else did you know? I won the 2020 Poetry Society of America's Robert H. Winter Memorial Award. I also won the journal, Ohio State University's journal, a prize to have A More Perfect Union published by Mad Creek Books. And Haint won the 2017 Ohioana Poetry Book Award. So I've gotten some love from my state of Ohio, and I'm so proud of it. So let's dig in. So the first poem I wanted to read you, and I hope you have your big adult pants on because there's going to be some language, but it's going to be so much fun. I'm a huge Greek mythology fan. Just you know, in fourth grade, I fell just headfirst into it. And once you hit the Greek myths, then you hit the Roman myths, and then I hit the Egyptian myths, and then I hit the Norse myths because I'm also a comic book fan, big Marvel fan. I will dabble in DC as my father was a DC comic books fan. So thinking about Persephone and Demeter, which is one of my favorite kind of myths and ideas of explaining the seasons. And of course, thinking about that, I can't help but give a shout out to Mother Love by Rita Dove, which really does an incredible job of chronicling that particular myth. I knew I would eventually write about Persephone. Something about Persephone's story reminded me of the plight of Black people in America. So, with that said, here's a poem that code switches and has two parts, and you'll understand when you hear it. So, again, like I said, there's some adult language, so be prepared. Why Persephone should be a Black name. Crazed with loneliness, edgy, sharp like pale skin, Hades breaks the earth apart for want of his own piece of sun. The mother, Demeter, is all raging heartbreak, bares her canine teeth, grieving bosom to anyone with eyes, to everyone's eyes. Persephone in a strange land, strange man, stranger hands, finds her chaste determination wrestling a new hunger, until the girl is overcome and finds solace sucking the earthy pulp of 6 pomegranate seeds. A mother's shrieked pleas finally clears the path home for her only child. Persephone rises, walks this path of dry tears, meets her mother a changed woman. But even a mother's embrace has a time limit. 6 months for her 6 seeds of solace. For this, she must return to the man whose eyes welled with a need she could never feel. Translation. But I'm saying though, some crazed dude rises from nowhere and grabs Persephone right out of her mama's arms. Now her mom's Demeter is pissed off more than a bit, but ain't nobody got time for her sob stories, right? So she got to negotiate, ain't that some shit, with her daughter's kidnapper. Persephone, this po child, she holding out as long as she can, hungrier than a motherfucker, but finally she eats 6 of these seeds. Meanwhile, her mom is working a deal, not sure if money changed hands, and fixes it so that Persephone can come back home with those 6 seeds haunting her ass. And it turns out just for those damn seeds, she got to stay for half the damn year in some place she never asked to be. I want to make sure that you guys can still see. And so that was why Persephone should be a black name. The next poem I wanted to read you from Haint, and as I read you this, I will show you this. And that is, this is Haint Blue. I was just in Charleston, South Carolina for Memorial Day weekend. And the deal with Haint Blue is I learned of haint as a word that people use for a ghost that had like a bone to pick, a ghost that had like this kind of weirdly edgy negative energy. And I also learned that when someone paints their porch or porch door or something paint blue, it's the idea that ghosts can't cross water. So it's a way to keep those angry, edgy ghosts away from you and away from your loved ones. So I will eventually read the poem that is dedicated to Haint, or that the collection was titled from. But first, I wanted to read you this poem, Dear Diary. So much of the poems in Haint are poems that I could not shake. The poems that just messed with me so much. So I had to share this poem, and this poem is about a young child named Leshay Davis, and it's actually a combination of 2 different events. So here I'll read you the note from the back of the book. Dear Diary is inspired by 2 separate events reported in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, February of 1998 and May of 2001. The February story covered the death of 11-month-old Leshay Davis, who died of multiple internal injuries and broken bones caused by blows to his head, chest, and abdomen. His 14-year-old father was charged with the murder. The May story covered the death of 8-week-old Diamond Miller, who was beaten to death. Her 13-year-old father was charged with her murder. So you heard that right. Both children had fathers who were, one was 14, another was 13. Their mothers were around the similar age, if not a year younger than the fathers. So when I read that story, I had a hard time just trying to assign blame in so many ways, because I think that's what we want to do to understand something. So that's there too. And Jody, I see your comment. I will read that Led Zeppelin poem, since when we came in, it was Led Zeppelin. At the beginning of that playlist is Prince, I Want to Be Your Lover, because there's so much Prince in my life and in these poems that he's my God. He's my God. So you'll hear some Prince poems too, but I'll sneak in that Led Zeppelin poem. So here's Dear Diary. May 96. He always be over after everybody go to work, when first period bell would be ringing. If we was in school, I like him best out of all the boys. When he asked, I let him put it in me. I figured I'd make him my boyfriend now. August 96. It's Friday. Grandma's frying fish. I dreamt about eating some, so I just can't get enough. Grandma's looking at me funny, but Mom is laughing, calling me her new garbage disposal. But I must be sick of something, because I keep throwing everything back up. October 96. I'm getting fat, just a little, because I can't fit my favorite pair of jeans. My boyfriend be like, oh, it's all good, since he like his women thick. Me, I'm his woman. I can't wait to see what he got me for my 13th birthday. January 97. Mom's tripping. Keep asking me if I'm pregnant because I'm all fat and stuff. That bitch is jealous because I got a man and she ain't been able to keep one since we moved in with Grandma last year. March 97. My stomach is killing me. I think I got gallstones or something. I'm scared to say anything though, because This shit feels like I'm gonna die or something. March 97. Turns out I was pregnant. I got a son now. I'm gonna name him Lachey. June 97. My baby daddy live with us now. He ain't going to school no more. Besides, that teacher that got him arrested was tripping anyway. He's slanging, so we got fly clothes and everything, and he can ball. He keeps saying he going to the NBA. That would be the shit. I hope it happens. August 97. Lachey was acting funny, crying all night. I told my man to get him, cause shit, I ain't got to do everything. He hit me and was like, get the fuck up. I was like, nigga, bump that, I'm tired. That baby just probably fell off the couch or something. He be alright. Mama say I gotta let him cry, that I be spoiling him anyway. Holding him all the time. Whatever. November 97. Mom ain't gonna watch the baby tonight. Damn, she be tripping. And grandma at church, so I gotta take him with me. Just came back from my girls. We smoked a Philly and chilled out. They all think Lachey is the cutest baby. He had on his baby Gap outfit. I know I'm lucky to have a man like mine. It sucks sometimes, but I'm happy we live together. January 98. Ninth grade is hard. Lachey don't cry as much at night, so at least I can sleep. March 98. Yesterday I picked up Lachey. His chest felt all soft and squishy. My cousin called 911. Ain't nobody know what happened to him. Why he was like that. They said he just probably fell off the couch or something. By the time we got to the hospital, my son was dead. He was only 11 months old. Now he gone. April 98. The police arrested Lachey's daddy today. Told me he killed the baby, that he beat him up and killed him. My brother said if they put him in jail, he can get one of his boys to shank him. What am I going to tell everybody at school? So, not an easy poem for me to write, but I had to do it. I had to find a way to memorialize Lachey Davis. I had to find a way to memorialize Diamond Miller, so I combined some of their stories, but I used Lachey's name. And if you find me in real life, I may be able to tell you or show you the picture of Lachey. And that's what ran on the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, was a huge picture of Lachey in his baby Gap outfit. And so for me, persona was the way that I could get into this poem, because I knew that voice. You know, I knew girls who got pregnant in high school. So, and you know, and there's no shame there. It's just what happened afterward. Everything that happened afterward. I had a hard time processing. So this book is called Haint for a reason, because if there's anything in this world I know that these kids were like haints to me, and I had to exercise them. And so I did that by writing this poem. And so that I wanted to share with you. And so to set this poem up, this next poem is called Southern Cross. And what I will show you are just little details. So this was when I went to the Florida 2000 discotheque in Kenya, in Nairobi, in 1997. So basically from June to September of 1997, I lived in Kileleshwa, outside of Nairobi, Kenya. I had learned Kiswahili for a master's program in international affairs with an emphasis on African studies. My bachelor's degree is in journalism with an emphasis on African American literature and creative writing. And so part of that program meant that I would go to Kenya for that time. So the next picture I'll show is this little one, and that's me. That's me from my passport when I was in Kenya. Okay. Southern Cross. From within the guarded colonial gates of our Kileleshwa living quarters, Malcolm, the Scottish intern, and I spiced our secured boredom by overturning courtyard benches, piling and scaling them like vines to the roof. Tilting our heads, we soak up the velvet night, awash in silence so darkly foreign and complete, with its glimmering configurations only seen south of the equator. Growing up in Little Rock, my mama told me of her night sky, of following stars' paths with one round finger. Growing up in Cleveland, the city's northern lights drowned out the Big Dipper, Cassiopeia, Orion's belt. But across the world in Kenya, I can see the Milky Way, the the Southern Cross, and I am ensorcelled by the night's dictation, such incandescent writing on the blackest of sheets. And just one more from Paint. So I hope you guys are out there. I hope everybody's listening. And please, if you need to reach me, definitely do so in the comments. I'm going to pause for 1 minute because I think we're having some problems with some connecting. So I'll do that for just a moment. And I'm wondering if the best thing is for me to end the live feed and start it over again. So we'll fill that out. But while okay, folks are not able to sign in. So I'm going to end the live feed and just start right over. So hang around. Don't leave yet. If you're here, don't worry, we'll be back and I'll still be sharing poems. What we'll do here.
Unknown caller.
Excuse me. Lauren. Hey, so is there a problem with should I end the live feed and start again? End it and start again? Yeah, we did it yesterday. So, wait. Hopefully you all so I hope that you all can hear me now and that yes and that we'll I won't start over. I'm sorry if you missed the earlier poems, but you can always buy the book. So hopefully you all can see now and that you all can get into the work, get into the page. I'm going to read one more poem or two more poems from Hate, and then I'm going to move to A More Perfect Union. So I wanted to read the title poem from Hate, since I showed you the Hate Blue, which influenced me, right? And I told you about how this earlier poem I read, Dear Diary, is definitely a poem that felt like a hate. So much of what's in this book felt like hates that I had to exercise. So here's the title poem. And again, this too comes from an article that was actually in the newspaper. It was on CNN.com. I am heavily influenced by the news cycle in many ways. But anyway, Hate. No amount of dilation and suction, hemorrhaging and fever could have erased you, or the pulp of your carved initials made with the solid grasp of a still forming hand. Science tells me, inside my bones, you are still whispering, that years from now cut me to the marrow and microscopes will read the rings of your insistent story, no matter the inconvenient coupling of timing and desire. Even now, when the bloody show disappoints our sharpening hunger, do you still cling, or are you willing to let another call my womb poem. So you can read that about, you can take that poem in as a poem about a miscarriage, about an abortion. Either way, what prompted that poem was an article on CNN.com that talked about every pregnancy a woman experiences leaves a genetic mark inside her body. And I found that fascinating. And they were like, even if it's not taken to term, it still leaves a mark. And at that point in time, my husband and I were trying to have our first child, and we were going through a lot of infertility, and it took about 5 years until we had our first child. And then that second one snuck right in there, as they tend to do. He's just a sneaky one in general now. And I find that this is a trend, that the way they are in utero is the way they are outside the body too. Um, but so that's Haint, and that's the title poem from the book. And one more poem from here, and as my daughter sneaks into my periphery, this is a poem about her, even though I don't know if she knows it. The poem is called Let Down. And this is about breastfeeding. So for those of you who've had children and breastfed, and been able to breastfeed, I hope you can relate. What you should know is, whenever I think about this poem, I think about the privilege I had to have had an office and access to a refrigerator and a sink to clean out the paddles every day, times a day, when I would pump, and how necessary that was for me to nurse my children, my daughter for 18 months and my son for 25. And I wish that were the opportunity, and that was in place for every woman who wanted to nurse. Let down. The books say that milk let down feels like pins and needles. But when you're pumping at work, it's more like lungs constricting under the crush of chlorinated water. You know, God willing, when she's 16 or 25, you'll never be this essential again. So remember the smothering need now, the engorged breasts, the suction, the release. Know the ache, swelling, and flowing from you is caused by your hands cradling plastic bottles, that your warm, twisting baby is elsewhere, away from you. Know the sadness will threaten to sweep you under each time you take out the pump, and you can't swim away from it. You must do this for her. You must stay. You must drown. And so that's the end of poems from Haint. Now we'll go into poems from More Perfect Union, which is my second collection. And I guess I'll give you the quick story about this, and I meant to actually bring it out. This is my grandfather's flag, and he's a veteran of the war. Met him twice in my life, and I took this shoot. It was all black women. It was a beautiful moment, and we were here in my house, and it was President's Day weekend, which felt really serendipitous in many ways. To have this shoot with a woman basically attempting to say with this one image that, you know, America, you and I have been in bed a long time, and you still haven't treated me. You still don't treat me right. And I'm just like, I don't know what else to tell you, America. Get your stuff together. If it was if my relationship with America were like with an actual human being, I would have broken up a long time ago, because I would have felt like it was toxic. That's just how I feel. So we'll start off. Since we ended with Let Down, I wanted to start off with the Goddess of Blood. One of the things I had a lot of fun with is creating my own goddesses for this book. And earlier, if you're here for the earlier part, I am a big fan of Greek myths and a big fan of comic books. So yes, I do have Disney Plus, and I'm all about that Marvel life. And I also love my DC comics. And so the idea of creating goddesses was a natural thing to me, because it was so easy to do. Who doesn't want the supernatural in their lives in this way, right? Who doesn't want superpowers? I mean, I don't know about you, but come on, if you had one, what would it be? That's all I'm saying. So for me, I wanted to start with the Goddess of Blood. And when you think about Let Down and kind of where things ended with Let Down and motherhood and the drowning in it, this kind of takes off. The Goddess of Blood, and it has an epigraph. Many pagans believed in the 5 sacred mysteries of blood: birth, menarche, pregnancy and birthing, menopause and death. Birth. You rode in on your mother's title prayer. I baptized you in vernix and blood. Minarchy, I came to you again at 10, such a rusty entrance, a door swinging open. You stopped at snow dunes long enough to put on one of your aunt's pads, then head back out into the Cleveland night. Soon after, my monthly visitations held the fecund smell of ritual. No perfume or pad could ever deny me. Your prayers, dependable and mundane, please stop the cramps. But I packed white pants. You would plead, and I would do what I pleased, mapping the universe within you. Pregnancy and birthing. After 8 years of marriage, I felt the fruit of you, made you spring. You bloomed like Washington's magnolias, latent with possibility, the matter of me folding and cleaving inside. Months later, you blossomed a girl child. Beatific in hematic glory, 2 years later, you produced the son. For my sacrifice, a carmine current soaked the delivery bed. Later, your breast welled up with sustenance, giving you a taste of my power. Your prayers shined with a new reverence. Bending down, you would sniff your baby's crowns, looking for my scent. Menopause. Decades later, you come to value my sanguine serenity. As I take my slow exit, I have become an ordering of the unpredictable. At the midnight altar of your bed, I anoint you, rivulets of sweat running down your softening body. Death. And when death comes, will you be a wrung sponge? Will you see how alive I made you? I like to think of these goddesses talking to us and kind of hipping us to the idea of how reverential we should be for the things that we go through. And I think it's hard. And when you're talking about menstruation, something that in many ways people call it a curse or had all these other names for, but they often had negative tinges to them. And I wanted to examine that and examine how do we get to that point where we felt like these things are negative. This blood is our life, and without it, we couldn't live. And so I thought, the goddess of blood would have a little something to say about that. Also, as I got to the middle of that, I thought about a study I saw where they took newborns and how mothers could smell their newborns, figure out which newborn was theirs just by the scent on the heads. And so you think about that, and I know as a new mother, I would put my baby in a baby Bjorn, or I just smelled their heads and their baby breath, and it was just so precious. And I had a feeling I would know my baby anywhere from any other baby. This is my child. So that I share with you. So we'll go to A Black Woman Gets a Window Seat on Aer Lingus. One of the beautiful things I've had the opportunity to do is to travel a little bit, as if you heard me talk about living in Kenya. And then Not Without Our Laughter, with the Black Ladies Brunch Collective, an incredible poet, Saida Agassini, we traveled to Ireland in the summer of 2017. And as I was getting ready to fly back, and as I was on the plane, the impetus for this poem came to me. And this is called A Black Woman Gets a Window Seat on Aer Lingus. Enough, Ireland. For all your lush effusion of color, inside me blooms a masochistic loneliness. Give me the screws I know best, the policeman quick to test my yes sir as acidless. Trigger the Midwest. Never on the Bible school test was this. Crucifixion kills, not nails into feet or wrists, but the weight borne upon the breast. You suffocate slowly in your own flesh. As I return to the upright cross of the U.S., I breathe easier. I breathe less. You ever get worried about what you search on your computer? Sometimes you can. And all that searching I did on crucifixion and how that works had me a little worried if anybody ever came across that. What is she doing? But I needed to know how you actually died. What happened? What triggered death in that way? And yes, coming back to the U.S. feels like that to me sometimes. It's what am I in a hurry for? Coming back to a country that I'm not sure knows that it loves me. It should, but I don't often feel it. So, I know we had those technical difficulties, so I'm going to skip some of these poems I planned on reading. And I'm going to read you this one because I thought this was important. I'm going to show you pictures for which I only have the negatives, people. This is what you get when you do all your dirt before cell phones. So, this was me at Freaknik in 1994. Tell you, man. And this is me too. Group of friends. Like I said, Freaknik 1994. Yes, I have on basically uh, a running bra, but it was Freaknik. You could wear whatever you wanted to wear. It's nice. I was a sophomore in college, and uh, as you can tell from the picture, there was nothing that was too tight for me at that point in time. Live it up when you can. So, all that to say, when I had my first child, the first thing that came into my mind when my husband said it's a girl, because we had it in our birth plan, and I do love the idea of a birth plan, like you can actually have control over these things. Um, they, um, I had it in my birth plan that my husband would tell me. We did not know the gender of our children before they were born, and even now as parents, we still check in. Hey, uh, so when my husband said it's a girl, this is the first my mind went to Freaknik, because all of a sudden it made sense. Everything wrapped together. Baby girl, January 2009, Monday night. When my firstborn came into this world, my husband exclaimed, "It's a girl!" Such glee. I thought, oh shit, Freaknik, please don't let her do that to me. Implicit apology gushed down to the elbow of the moment. Later, I train her in dresses, skirts, words like pretty, eyelash, coquettish, and smile. Her biceps grow so large. I lace her with the barbs most used to harm, but mommy takes their sting away. Amazon, my big girl, my strong girl, my smart girl. April 1995, Sunday night. Because she was small, she could fit in the window's bay frame where she threatened to jump if the frat boy didn't keep his hands off her.
Unknown caller.
She laughs. Sorry. She laughs when she remembers this moment. Humor the filter over the terror, the tired. It had been a long 3 days. Friday day. Spring break. All the white kids were at Florida beaches, the black kids in Atlanta for Freaknik. Campus was a ghost town. The three of them looked at each other with a dream. Last minute of the poor and pretty are many. So, and then just so you can kind of understand how this poem looks on the page, there's a little bit on the side here. Questionable decisions made quickly. Cash, $60, one credit card. A cousin rents them a car, but it can't go out of state. Okay, bet. Friday night. It wasn't the siren's cry that woke her. The mixtape was too bumping for that. But the red and blue swirling lights bouncing off the backseat windows. Seconds ago, she'd been asleep. Now a white cop had his gun unholstered and pointed at her head, yelling, "Get the fuck out the car. Welcome to Tennessee." Three skinny black girls on the side of a highway at midnight. The driver's t-shirt torn. What a threat to the man with the gun. Friday night, Saturday morning. The black bondsman with kind eyes bails the driver out, but they gotta be back on Monday for the hearing. Saturday afternoon, a convertible caddy cruising Atlanta streets, treetops filtering sunlight, blunts, burgers, brews pass freely, southern hospitality. Saturday night, black lace leotard, no bra. She writes the night in disappearing ink. In his eyes, a sparkle, confidence, cockiness, curly braids projecting a framed innocence. Funny how his hand keeps appearing on her waist. Sunday night, the bondsman picks them up, drives them to the campus of University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. "These guys can put you up for the night," he says. Questionable decisions made quickly. Kappa Alpha Psi, pretty boys and striped canes on one side, Omega Psi Phi, Qs that just crossed on the other side. Those Qs look like fun. Questionable decisions made quickly. "Let's play spades for shots with a new partner." She wins 12 books in a row, increasingly sober, but the Qs ain't, so who really won? Decisions to do sooner than later. Call home. They don't know where she is. She needs a bus ticket back to school. Places where guys hid. Closets, 2. Under bed, 2. How many times were they chased through that small apartment? Just one of them or all 3 of them? What happened before she stood in the arched window threatening to jump? He showed her his python. He locked the door. His hands followed her everywhere until she was tired of squirming out of muscled arms, tired of being on guard, tired of laughing through her threats. To be serious meant it was. He said, "It's a girl." I'm a gaping portal the doctor's trying to staunch. My daughter is placed on my chest. Her head cranes to the sound, the smell of me. Consciousness, a black sheet fluttering. Every muscle tried. The world will want to wound her, will want her bloodied lip and its kisses. I've got to prepare her for both. And now you can see why that poem was the first thing that came to mind. That line, oh, freak me, don't let her do that to me. As soon as I became a parent, I realized kind of how vulnerable it feels to have a daughter in this world. And as a black mother, I recognize a vulnerability every day with my 2 children, with my son and my daughter. So speaking of my son, here's a poem that has an epic, and I should just give you a trigger warning, it has a slur in it, and you'll understand why. Don't act like a... On the train from Baltimore, a woman ignores her young son until his boredom makes mischief fun, and her unengaged gaze narrows, sharpens, before we all hear the slap followed by words meant to bruise. Don't act like a faggot. Maybe years later he will kiss a man and taste despair. Maybe years later he will kick a man to hide his own fear. Maybe none of these things will happen. But my own silence is cultivated by years of attempted interventions met with blistering invectives, my own verbal fumbles, trying not to judge while judging. I wonder how long it will take to embrace a masculinity not drenched in cowardice, its stench as strong as semen. I wonder how many years until we learn not discuss the instant flippant rebuke, but the joy of a boy dancing in his sister's princess dress. How the frills flounce as he runs down the hall, the pink spaghetti straps framing square shoulders, waiting to broaden and fill. So I should, one more and then I'm going to jump to the Prince poems, which are short. Knowledge of the Brown Body. And this is after Harriet Tubman is a Lesbian by Saida Agostini. If Harriet Tubman had been a lesbian, I would know the brown body had been valued outside of chattel to the point of risk. I would know an ebony nipple spoke its hushed volumes from inside another sweet brown mouth, eager to know its secrets. I would know a brown belly had been showered with a free tongue's pulsing intention. I would know the brown hips of a woman were stolen back for freedom's sake. I would know that brown thighs thunder was enough to make a woman walk into the abyss of the deep south and come out clapping on fire with black love. I would know that this body I own had once been coveted for its sake and its sake alone. How sacred I could hold that knowledge. I could palm it, my fingers deep inside the agent that helped break the back of the Confederacy. So, of the Prince poems, they're really sexy poems. So that's what you should know. And they all take their titles from Prince songs. The first gospel of Prince, because Prince should have some gospel. And I'd set a timer, so forgive me. But I think because I had to jump off and jump back on, I might read just a little bit more if that's okay. The first gospel of Prince. Erotic City. Fingertips find the groove, tapping a rounding hip, wake up to possibilities. Girl, and that's on the B-side. That's one of those B-side cuts. I was that kind of Prince fan. Girl. Boy, the word runs around a mouth, whispering to the tongue the hell it can raise with a flick. Fill you up. The curve, the heft, a breast under palm, consent is stiffening nipples. Electric intercourse. The air sears between hips. This melody is a startled beauty. Breathe in halting sips. The second gospel of Prince, The Question of You. Divining answers from a guitar solo, sycophant, bare yourself to the speakers. Sex. Hunger locked deep within her, the key a man's tender inquisition. Let him touch her and see what insatiable can bear. Shakadelica. A drum kick knocks the door down, the guitar solo greedily laps the air. Rock hard in a funky place, his falsetto loosening the screws of the speaker. And one more, the third gospel of Prince. Irresistible bitch. He's never known her taste mingled with his. Joy in repetition. Is the alchemy of want powerful enough to disrupt time and displace space? Fingers hover. We can funk the jewel box version. I would worship the taste of you. Just close the door. So, yeah. I love me some Prince, and I had to do my man right. I had to do my man right. What can I say? So we'll skip ahead. So I just worry about time now, and I want to make sure I can share just maybe one or two more poems. And so if you go through that, and you know, if you buy the book, you'll see. You can go through, and if you follow me on Spotify, I actually do have a playlist of all those songs kind of together so that you can kind of get a sense of like where I go with that. Prince just opened up every door of possibility. He didn't even open it up. He kicked it open with those stilettos. Okay, come on now. You know what was up. You know what was up. So, the goddess of anger. One of the things I loved about doing these goddesses was I got to like have this powerful voice that I don't feel like I have in life, right? I'm 5'3". I'm not like LeBron James, you know? So to these goddesses, it wouldn't matter how big they are, right? Because they're goddesses, right? And you're going to respect that. The goddess of anger. Did he touch you? Did he hit you with jagged words or closed fists? Did he laugh at you? Were you polite even then? Were you lava under the skin? Then let me in. Unsheath the dagger of me. You've tasted pain. Now let me master it. Let me in. I'll use the dust of his bones for tea. I'll rise, vengeful and caustic, a florid fury, steeped in seething. I'll make his eyes bleed. Let me in. I'll dissect him unflinchingly. A backhand slap, a rake of fingernails. I'll spit my small mercies. I'll dance on him in stilettos. Paint my toenails OPI red while the blood congeals. Let me be your ignition point, your pitch, the whoosh of hot, sweet breath. I'm all your swallowed heat simmered into flesh. I too can lift burdens. Let go of fear of retribution. Let go of decorum and shame. Ride rage until it bucks, then jump on it again. Damn it, let me in. So that poem came to me at the Community of Writers, as most of these goddesses did. It was like a visitation. And I woke up with the words, let me in, on just repeat in my head. It's kind of scary, but I was here for it and I was ready. So, and I feel like I've run out of time. So I am not going to read too much more. I think just two more. Thank you, Jesus. And I'll end with this poem suggests revolution. And if we can keep it going, I'll definitely take any questions you might have. So thank you, Jesus. When the blue and red sirens pass you, when the school calls because your child beat the exam and not a classmate, when the smartphone drops but does not crack, the rush escaping your mouth betrays your upbringing. Thank you, Jesus, a balm over the wound. When the mammogram finds only density, when the playground tumble results in a bruise, not a broken bone, like steam from a hot tea kettle. Thank you, Jesus, and the pent-up fear vents upward, out. Maybe it's a hand over breast, supplication learned deeper than flesh, as if one could shush the soul, the fluttering heartbeat with 3 words. Maybe it's not so dire, an almost trip on the sidewalk, the accumulated sales total showing savings upon savings. Maybe it's as small as an empty seat on the metro, or maybe, thank you, Jesus, becomes the refrain every time your husband pulls into the driveway, alive and whole, and no one has mistaken him for all the black, scary things. You mutter it, helpless to stop yourself from the invocation of a grandmother who gave you your first Bible. You say it because your mother, even knowing your doubt is a vested commodity, still urges prayer. You learned early to cast the net. Thank you, Jesus. And it's a sweet needle that gathers the fraying thread, hemming security in steady stitches. From birth, you've heard this language. As an adult, you've seen religion used nakedly as ambition, yet this sacrifice of praise still slips past your lips, this lyrical martyr of your dying faith. So one more, and I will say I said earlier I was in Charleston, South Carolina. I was reading at McLeod Plantation, and I read this poem there, and it felt like a moment for me because to read this poem on the plantation felt like I was giving voice to a lot of people who had been voiceless. So I'll read it with this. I'll try and bring the same kind of energy I had then. This poem suggests revolution. This poem no longer consents to play mammy or to wet nurse a seething rage of her own black teeth. America, your teeth have come in. You nip too much. This poem refuses to play religion. A Bible verse will not absolve you, America. If the pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty came from the Creator, she's about ready to backhand you in the face. This poem will not be your bottom bitch, America. This poem does not consent to blackness being window dressing for the diversity brochure of a country where the board of directors never changed. This poem reads the fine print on you, America. This poem consents to be black ink, a clenched fist, pepper spray, and black souls marching on asphalt. Freedom for and from you, America. If need be, this poem consents to double as witness, the dotted I in the missing reparations decree. Until then, let this poem heckle you, America. Let it yell, "God damn, U.S., choke on cotton," while fanning itself and the flames. Understand, this poem doesn't want to be bloodthirsty. It would rather write about the cleanse of a cloudburst than the vengeful force of a water hose. In truth, this poem courts hope. Like a Volta, it wants to turn the page writing, "America, let us pen a new document. Not a perpetual union, but a chokehold removed, as a black throat breathing freely is a self-evident truth. Let these lines be facts submitted to a candid world. And this poem, when spoken or read, let it alter, let it abolish you." Yeah, so I'll end by saying, there are a couple questions. If you have any questions, I'd like for you to know, how did you first hear about Furious Flower and things like that. And hopefully you'll have some questions for me because I'm really here to answer them. I really, really am. But I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Furious Flower live reading series. And so before I totally end it, I'll just check in to see if there are any questions. And if not, that's okay. I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. Again, I read from my first book, Haint, and my second book, A More Perfect Union. And you even got a little bit of the story behind it. I know that it's a bit of a delay with it. So if you do have any questions, I am here for them. And but I'll check first to see if we have any questions. But if not, I will kind of give you the ending now. And I think I told you all I could too. I was trying to share with you a little bit here and there. Even as I thought about thank you, Jesus, I was sitting here looking at the Bible I got from my grandparents. Like, yeah, there it is right there. That Bible. That's the one I'm talking about. There's so many moments that happen in the other part of your brain when you're reading. But I'll go ahead and end it. And I wanted to say again, thank you for coming in. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Furious Flower Facebook Live Reading Series. Thank you again to the NEA for supporting this venture. As part of their reporting, Furious Flower will be reaching out to viewers for feedback on their experiences with the series, and I invite you all to participate and give your feedback. Also consider signing up for this year's Summer Legacy Seminar, Groundwork, the The Legacy of Poet and Editor Haki Madhubuti. The seminar is designed for educators, but is open to everyone. It runs from June 21st to the 25th. It's virtual for the first time ever and is available for a hugely discounted price of $50. Registration has been extended to June 15th, so register now. For information on this and other programs, follow Furious Flower on social media or visit their website at www.jmu.edu/furiousflower. Thank you and stay safe. And just remember, there will be a survey about this series, so please keep an eye on this page and fill it out. So thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. And there's the survey right there. So you all have a great Friday, a great June, a great July, and a great rest of 2021. At least it's not 2020. What can we say? I mean, that should be like the theme for 2021. At least it's not 2020.